All right, our friend Kyle Brandt is here. We just did a Rewatchables taping, which is already up. We did Rudy. It went in a whole bunch of directions. You called it the most polarizing sports
Yep.
movie of all time. You can listen to that. But since you were here, I kept you on because I wanted to play five favorites with you. I've been doing, leading up to this season, five favorite blank.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be a really fun season. I think we're all enthused about it. But I asked you, give me your five favorites. Let's count them down from 5 to 1. And you decided to do coaches.
Yeah.
So why? What is it about the coaches this year?
Because there's some guys who are really famous and really accomplished that are in the pressure cooker this year. And it's not the usual people. It's not Andy Reid. It's that type of thing. It's like, there's a group of guys that are like the gun to the head. Like, you got to win a playoff game this year. Like, no more of this messing around. And there's weird circumstances. So I have my 5 favorite head coaches this year. It's storyline based, hot seat, pressure cooker, gun to the head, whatever you want to call it. You want to hear the list?
Yeah. So it's basically 5 most fascinating head coach situations for 2024. Okay, go backwards. Start with 5 and we'll end with 1.
All right, 5. I'm going to go with the reigning coach of the year, Kevin Stefanski, coach of the Cleveland Browns. And I'll tell you why. This guy has won coach of the year twice. Last year, he and Joe Flacco went on this Disney movie run to the playoffs, and it was a really cool story. There is a complete and utter enigma with Kevin Stefanski's quarterback, Deshaun Watson. He has not played a good, solid season in 4 years. His last season that he played was good and healthy was the COVID year with no fans in the stands. And there was real discussion at the end of last season about the Browns have found something with Flacco. This works. They respond to him. His chemistry with Stefanski is amazing. Flacco is now gone. I think he's on the Colts. And it's like, all right, Deshaun Watson, it's 5 years waiting for it. We talk about the AFC North, Bill. It's like, all right, Lamar's the MVP. We're talking more about Russell Wilson and Justin Fields than Deshaun Watson, and then Burrow is Burrow. So it's like the Browns need to win a playoff game this year. They should. They were in one last year and got killed.
He showed up with a kind of a shitty attitude to begin with.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like, for why? They spent everything to get him. He's hugely paid. He hasn't accomplished anything since some of these guys were even in the league. And if they mess up in that division, like, you could look at 6-11 really, really fast. So I think like everybody loves Stefanski, totally respected by players, obviously like voters and stuff, but he has to deal with this guy that not everybody respects and that is not only reviled, but just completely mysterious. I don't know if he has it. I don't know if he was a top 5 guy in 2020. I don't know if he's a top 20 guy. I have no clue. And I think I'll find out really quickly. They open also, Bill, the Browns week 1 game is Tom Brady's first call. So he's going to be talking extensively about Watson. And if Watson doesn't play well, Brady's going to go in on him. It's amazing. The Stefanski's at the center of it.
Yeah, they have that game. They're at Jags, home Giants, at Vegas, home Washington. So the first 5, other than that Dallas game, which is at least home with some pressure on it, but the first 5's a pretty easy start.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're playing 3 of the worst teams in the league. But I'm with you. I don't feel good about Watson at all. The team overachieved last year, 11-6. They got killed in the playoffs. They're already having some offensive line issues. They got Chubb coming back. God only knows what's going to happen with him.
I don't know.
And I'm with you. I have no idea if Deshaun Watson is still good at not only just throwing the ball, moving an offense down the field, but can he lead an offense? Can he handle the day-to-day, the media and people coming up and whatever off the field stuff, which he's had more than just about anybody. And I see people, because it seems like everybody's looking for a reason not to pick Baltimore this year.
I know.
So a lot of people are gravitating to the Bengals. Some people are trying to talk themselves into Justin Fields. And then there's this Cleveland side where they're like, hey, that team's got some talent, man. Why not Cleveland? And my answer is because Deshaun Watson's their quarterback. I just don't see it. They changed their offense to try to fit him this year, right? They were big on the play action deep ball, which he's bad at. Now it's like, well, we need a more Deshaun friendly. I don't see it. I just don't see it with that team at all.
It's weird. The face of the team and the lead of every conversation about the Browns is just Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's great. Like, he's a defensive player. Like, who's the quarterback? We're not doing anything with Myles Garrett. It's almost, I don't know if they're loath to talk about him because of all the unsavory stuff he went through, or it's just there's not much of a story there because he hasn't been that good. But week 1, make no mistake, like, there's no hiding anymore. You're going to be in big time, prime time game, and if you suck, like, you're going to get killed for it, because I think some people are looking to do that.
You made the key point too. 4 years is a long time.
2020
to not be good.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. That's a presidential term. That's the time between Olympics, So it's like, no, it'll be good. And I'm not sold on their skill positions. Cooper, they got a really good year from last year, but he's a little older. No idea what to expect from Chubb. And I just think last year was pretty fluky for a bunch of different reasons. Their defense was awesome at home, not as good on the road. Their schedule is going to be harder this year. Yeah, I'm with you. All right, I like that one because I think we both like Stefanski, but I
love him.
I do not envy the job he's in. Their over-under is in the 8.5 range, which feels. I would lean toward the under. I'm doing the under overs with Sal next week, but that's more of an under than an over.
They were a playoff team last year. They got destroyed by the Texans, but like they made a run. 8 wins would be hugely disappointing for this team. But it also, if they win 8 games, Deshaun Watson got hurt or doesn't have it anymore. All right.
Well, also the O-line stuff. If that's not perfect before the season starts, and then you go into that Dallas game, Parsons is going nuts in the front. Like that could go ugly fast. All right, number 4.
All right, number 4. Yeah, I have Jim Harbaugh and the LA Chargers. I think that Jim Harbaugh, he and Sean McVay are the 2 best living coaches right now. I think they're the best coaches in football. They're both in LA. And I have to tell you, Bill, on a personal note, I sat down with Jim Harbaugh like 2 weeks ago. I'd never met him before. I sat down for like an interview, and you meet public figures, you meet movie stars, whatever, you've done it. You kind of hope they show up as themselves. Like you hope they play the hits. My Hall of Fame for the 3 celebrities that I've met that show up and just like you want them to. Guy Fieri, who is just like out of bounds, bomb.com. You're the best, man. You're the best, brother. Jack Black, unbelievably cool. Wants to talk about heavy metal and just totally chill. Love Jack Black. And Jim Harbaugh, who walks to the interview and is like, hey, man, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? Hey, Kyle, I met you before. And it's an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. Who's got it better than us? And I think he's going to do things this year. Herbert injury, I know, is like a huge deal, and it kind of scratched the record for the Chargers. But here's my take on Harbaugh and why it's so interesting. Every stop that he's gone to as a coach, when he shows up, there is this big, bad video game boss. He goes to Stanford, and Pete Carroll runs the world. He is everything with his USC teams. Jim Harbaugh's team immediately was good, and they beat the shit out of Pete Carroll's team, even talked shit to him after the game. Stage 2, he goes to San Francisco. Pete Carroll again, Seahawks run everything. The 49ers took over. He was in the title game in year 1, the title game. Goes to Michigan. Ohio State's running everything. Immediately, Michigan's winning double-digit games. They eventually destroyed Ohio State. And now he shows up back in the pros with the biggest video game boss of all, the Chiefs, who won 2 straight Super Bowls. And he's like, yeah, I know. I got to beat Mahomes and Reed. No one can do it. And I got to figure out a way to take them out. I think it's fascinating.
I've been staring at them all summer.
Talk about it.
The over-under is juiced too high because everybody has seen that. Well, it's 8.5. And you mentioned the Herbert injury. They basically lost their receivers. They lost Eckler, who wasn't exactly lighting up last year. But there's a skill position thing with them that I think really scares people. But they have a lot of talent, man. And they added, a lottery pick left tackle. They still have a bunch of horses on defense. And then there's this Harbaugh thing. I texted a buddy of mine that works in the Chargers world. And I was like, does it feel different? And he's like, it's like night and day. Like, you have no idea. Like going from Staley last year to watching this guy walk in. He's like, I thought it might happen this way, but who knows? And then you're in it every day and it's like something shifted. And that seems to be the recurring theme with him over and over again. So I really want to talk myself into not only the over, but the possibility of them if the Chiefs, Kelsey being old and maybe saving himself for December. Who knows with Rashee Rice? Is Worthy going to be ready?
Yeah.
The Chiefs were 11-6 last year. It's not like they were lighting it up. So for them to go 1 win back and the Chargers to somehow bump up to 11-6, maybe they get to play the NFC South this year. I think Denver and Vegas are going to be bad. So you go through, you can kind of find the 10 wins, but the Herbert thing, I'm with you, is a record screech.
He's back out there this week as we're recording this, and he's throwing it around. And Harbaugh even said it seems like angels were singing when he came out to practice. Everyone we're programmed through fantasy football, all of us. So we see, well, Keenan Allen's gone and Eckler's gone. I totally get it. It won't matter. He'll figure out a way. They will score points. They will run the shit out of the ball. The second the Chargers hired him, we were on Good Morning Football, and I said they'll win 11 games in the first year. It's what he does at every stop. There's never a warm-up year. He doesn't do that warm-up year. It's immediately good. And I feel like he's going to completely unlock Herbert if he's healthy. Like, I totally believe in Harbaugh. I think they'll win 11 games in the first year. I'm into it.
And plus they say, like, I lost Allen, I lost Mike Williams, I lost Eckler, three guys. But Williams was out for most of last year anyway. So really you lost Allen and Eckler, but your offensive line's way better. I didn't mind the Dobbins-Edwards combo, stealing that from Baltimore. If they're just going to be like, we're pounding the ball.
They're going to run the shit out of it.
Every once in a while, we're going to throw it.
Jim's first hire when he became coach was the strength coach, and he poached him. And it's a guy who's a legendary dude. He's like, this is what I'm going to be about. I'm not going to hire the new coordinator, defense coordinator. Give me the strength coach first, because we're going to beat the shit out of people. It's just like we did at Michigan, and it can work in the pros. He's done it at San Francisco too. It was Frank Gore, and it was Kaepernick, and it was like all the way to the Super Bowl. Title game year 1 with Alex Smith. Like, I think he and McVay are the best living coaches, and he'll do it this year.
So 11 wins, they'd have to go 4-0 against the 2 shit teams and split with the Chiefs and go 5-1. And then that 11 becomes easy. All right. I agree with you on that one. What's number 3?
Number 3 is Mike Tomlin. So we talked a little bit about this. The Steelers have to win a playoff game this year. And all anybody wants to talk about is that, oh, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record. He's never had a losing record. Like, I completely disagree with you. Any Steelers fan will tell you that the postseason is the season, and they're always 0-1 on the postseason. He hasn't won a playoff game in years. Like, this goes back to like old Roethlisberger. And I love him, and he can get you to 9-8.
Going back to Tebow.
Yeah, no, for real. It's like going back to all those guys who played. He doesn't win in the playoffs. And it's like he's one of these guys that everybody likes, and everyone thinks like he's one of the best coaches. Well, hold on. If he's one of the best coaches, how come he never wins playoff games? I know we like him, and he's cool and everything, but I think he has to this year. And what he's dealing with, as we're talking about this, it might have been announced by now. It's like a down-to-the-wire Justin Fields versus zombie Russell Wilson true quarterback competition that no one seems to want. Yeah. And this is what's going to be on the other side of TJ Watt this year. I think Tomlin has to coach his ass off. Another year without a playoff win is like, I thought we were the Steelers.
The counter is the quarterback situation he's been dealt with for the past 6 years might be the worst. Like, Roethlisberger's last 3 years were bad. Last 2, I forget what 2 or 3, but it was over. And then they had to keep throwing him out there. They did some Trubisky.
Mason Rudolph.
They did some Pickett. Like, Pickett's like battling right now to see if he's the number 2 or number 3 Eagles quarterback. He's probably gonna be number 3.
I know.
And then the 2 guys this year, Wilson doesn't want to get hit anymore. Like, that Denver's paying a shitload of money just so he's not on their team, because he was just trying to get rid of the ball before he got hit. And then Fields, who has become a pretty polarizing presence in football circles, because some people are like, give him a chance, he's awesome. And I don't know, it just seems like he fucks up half the time. So we'll find out. If this is the best situation he's been in, probably, right? From a weapons coaching standpoint,
it was bad with the Bears. Yeah. But this has got to be it. Arthur Smith is the new offensive coordinator, the old Falcons coach, the Titans offense. All he wants to do is run and hurt people and hit people. And you think, all right, well, Fields can run really well. Let's do it. I've said I think he's going to win the job. Again, he might not, but like, the Russell Wilson thing is so fascinating. Bill, 4 years ago, he was voted by his peers, that NFL 100 thing they do. He was the number 2 player in the entire NFL. And now he might be the number 2 quarterback for a middling Steelers team. And to put it like in our terms, I feel like he has a Travolta thing where Seahawks was early Travolta. Yeah. Denver was look who's talking Travolta. And like, he needs Mike Tomlin to be his Tarantino and to have this renaissance and unlock him find it. And I don't think Tomlin's Tarantino, and I don't think he's Travolta.
Yeah. I think it's been done for 2 years.
I know.
The Travolta thing would be really fun, but I don't see a scenario, because why wouldn't it have happened last year?
Well, because they had Sean Payton, who wanted to play. He's a genius, does this, does that. And it wasn't a match, quote unquote. He didn't have the defense. He didn't have the running game. The thought was, okay, we have TJ Watt on the defense like the Steelers did. And we have Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, and they can be like Marshawn. And we can like go back to how it used to. We'll get the band back together. Just not the same. It doesn't. He's not shown it at all.
Sometimes you lose it, man. I was saying last year, Darren Williams in basketball was like that too, where he went from being like an All-NBA guy to being like a guy that couldn't start in playoff games.
The craziest thing, Bill, is that it's like Russell Wilson's life changed like on that goal line throw to the Patriots. He completes that throw. He's a Hall of Famer. He has 2 Super Bowls. And it just kind of hasn't totally been the same since Malcolm Butler.
There's some people that are in on Pittsburgh a little bit as a possible sleeper. I'm not one of those people. And I don't like the way they start the season either. They go at Atlanta, at Denver, home Chargers, at Indy, first four. Three road games out of the first four. And you don't know if you have a quarterback or not. Not to mention the at Denver week 2, if Wilson's the guy. Like, Denver's going to be fired up for that one, but I don't see it. All right, who's number 2?
All right, number 2 is our guy, Bobby Saleh. We got to talk Jets. Robert Saleh. It's like last year was the year. Oh, no, wait, hold on. No, this is really the year, guys. Like, we have to win now for us, for the GM, for the quarterback. I'm sorry I'm name dropping so much. I ran into Saleh a couple weeks ago, got to talk to him for a while. God, he is such a nice person. He's so polite and so intense. And like, I know a lot of people are like, yeah, he's a nice person. I don't want that as the Jets head coach. I don't go that way, but like, I am rooting so hard for him. His defense is amazing. They're so talented. And everybody knows like Sauce and Quinnen and whatnot. Like, I don't even think people know that Quinnen's Williams' brother is on the same defense, and he's amazing too. The offense is loaded. It's just like everybody, every single person, even in the Jets building, all they ever say is, if we can stay healthy, we can win the Super Bowl. We can do anything. If we can stay healthy, we can stay healthy. I think they're right. I believe in Rodgers probably to a fault.
Wow.
And I just think,
but it's because of your Bears DNA, though.
It's because I've been like whipped for him. We're Rodgers, back to Tarantino. Like, we're Rodgers gimp. Like, we have like the zipper mask on, and we have for years. He does own us. I thought he was going to be MVP last year as a Jet. I thought he was going to tie Peyton, and it was over. But I think he'll be great. I just don't know. Like, we'll see what Saleh's got. We've never seen him as a head coach in December when you need to win a game to get into the playoffs.
I'm just trying to figure out what the gimp in a Bears jersey. What was your take on the gimp? Whether that was like a 9-to-5 job for him, like he showed up at 10 and just climbed in the trunk, or whether he was like their actual prisoner.
I think he's there willingly. And so I think it is I don't think he's a prisoner. I think he likes it. And I think he clocks in, and they'd have to feed him and stuff like that. So I think
he's got to go to the bathroom. It's like 7 hours max in the trunk.
Yeah, I actually think the gimp is like kind of like in 8mm, like, how the machine is like just this normal guy at the end with glasses. I think the gimp is like a librarian or something, just a normal guy. He's a realtor, but I think because he punches in.
We talked about it in the Pulp Fiction pod, and there was Tarantino said how I didn't know this when we did the pod. Somehow I missed it in my 130 hours of research. But Tarantino said he always thought of the gimp as like a hitchhiker they picked up and made a prisoner out of. But I also don't think Tarantino in 93 was anticipating this internet culture that would come where every single moment of a movie is dissected. So even if he was their prisoner, so he's just in the trunk, he would just die in the trunk eventually.
The gimp's body language, though, it's not resistant. He doesn't seem scared. He kind of laughs at Butch, right?
He's got Stockholm syndrome, it seems like. If you're going with the hitchhiker thing, I like the idea of him showing up at 9, seeing Maynard, be like, hey, man, yeah, just going downstairs. I'll see you in a second. And then he just goes in the trunk and just kind of waits
for the spider to catch a fly. And they do it, and he's like, oh, game time.
I'm not surprised that we are talking about the gimp somehow as we talk about the New York Jets. I just think Sal is a bad coach. I haven't seen any evidence that he's good at it. I thought the way he handled the quarterback stuff last year was super weird. And I know you guys were getting material out of it on your show week after week because it was like he clearly didn't want Zach Wilson as his quarterback, but also didn't seem to have the juice to change his destiny, or was making it seem publicly like he was kind of okay. I just don't know what they were trying to accomplish. I've said it all year. Like, I just feel like if they had fired him in May and hired Mike Vrabel, I think we'd all be picking them to either win the Super Bowl or come close. And the fact that they have a coach that we've never seen him even have a winning record or be competent, and a quarterback who hasn't been good in 3 years and who's turning 40.
I know.
That's the case against them.
It is. And sometimes you can stay employed or you can stay in people's good graces by virtue of your personality. He is very, very good dude. He comes up with this like crazy cool looking bald head. He's jacked as hell. Like he has a full 6-pack, all that stuff. And
Are you talking about Sal or Chris Ryan? I lost track. Oh no, Sal.
Chris Ryan is great. He's bulking right now. He's doing triangle push-ups. Yeah, great guy. No, I'm talking about Saleh. And sometimes it's like, I don't know. I kind of like having Salah around, and it'll get you an extra year. But there's no year after this. Like I think Salah will be gone short of them winning a playoff game. They have to win a playoff, and they're the Jets. They never do.
I think they're the single hardest team of the 32 to figure out.
Really? So are you skeptical on Rodgers?
Sal and I are doing that pod in a week, and I still haven't decided where I landed on the Jets. I can't get there either way. And I think that from ceiling basement scenarios, I'm there on both sides. I could see them going 13-4. I could see them going 6-11 and Salah getting fired in week 6. And I don't know which way it goes. They have so much talent. Their offensive line is way better.
They're
Buffalo's
great.
worse. Miami's kind of secretly might be a little bit of a mess. And the Pats are just throwing this year away. So, even if you look at the schedule, like, they play AFC South, NFC West, which is a little dicey. They start the year at San Fran, at Tennessee, right? So we could be like 0-2. Oh my God, who saw this coming? Or you could go, oh, they beat San Francisco on Monday night. No McCaffrey. Oh my God, the Jets. They win in Tennessee. Then they had the Pats in Denver at home. It's like the Jets are 4-0. I'm ready for any scenario with them. I can't figure it out.
The week one's good because it's the Rodgers growing up in the San Francisco area storyline. The book is out. He grew up a Niners fan.
I don't know if you knew this. They could have taken him.
Yeah, they could have taken him number 1. It's weird. As it went out, they went to Alex Smith. It's a well-publicized story.
Could have drafted him. People haven't focused on that a lot.
There's actually a video of him at the table not being drafted. We unearthed it recently.
Well, the other thing with Rodgers is there's always like a possible some sort of soap opera storyline 2 days before the season that you weren't expecting, like some interview he gives, or whatever. Yeah, it's just, and it's the Jets. You have the Jets karma. This is a team that Larry David once wrote an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm about a Jets fan dying and not knowing whether it was because of the Jets or not.
But that was my question to you. Do you have brand prejudice against the Jets? Like if this same roster and same coaches were on, I don't know, like the Broncos or something, do you have brand prejudice?
I don't. The Patriots winning a Super Bowl has taken, to me, every team's on the table to win a title. Like, I just don't believe in that stuff anymore. The only thing is when it gets into like the playoffs, there's a couple teams. I think the Vikings have hit a point where I just assume something's going to go wrong for them. And I think the Bills are still at that point. It just there's certain teams that they have to show us they can get over the hump before I'll believe it. The Jets have had good teams and good seasons and good wins. Like they won they won at Gillette Stadium. They beat Belichick in New England. So I don't know. They made the conference title a couple of times. It's not inconceivable to me they'd be good.
No, listen, we live in a time right now when the Detroit Lions are amazing. And they're like the biggest pieces of shit for 25, 30 years. So anybody can be amazing. But we talked AFC East. We mentioned the Patriots. We talked the Jets. Talked the Bills. My number one head coach this year, Mike McDaniel. And
number one. Wow.
Number one.
Okay.
For a bunch of reasons. This is like the ultimate go time. Like you have to win a playoff game, maybe 2 playoff games. We're past how charmed we are at your personality and you're eccentric and your team is really cool and fast and Tyreek this and, Tua is kind of interesting, but like you need to win playoff games this year. And my take on the Dolphins, especially last year, Bill, is like they would just beat the shit out of all the bad teams and have all amazing highlights and 70 points, and then be terrible against the good teams. Watching the Dolphins last year was like Instagram scrolling. You're just sitting there kind of numb to it, and it's everything you like, and it's every piece of dopamine that you like. And when you're done with it, after like an hour of scrolling, you kind of feel sick and depressed about what you just did. And that was the Chiefs playoff game, which is one of the worst no-show playoff games in the 21st century. And it's the last taste in everybody's mouth. So they're great. They have fireworks and they have Jolt Cola and dopamine and Instagram. But at the end, you're like, what is the nutritive value of what I just ate? They destroyed the shitty teams, lost to the good ones, and then did nothing in a playoff game. I think they have a lot to prove. And it starts with like one of the most interesting head coaches we've ever had.
And can Tua stay healthy again?
Yeah. And is Tua really good? Like, can he win a big game? I don't know.
We have just got paid.
Yeah,
we've already seen weird Tyreek games.
Tyreek we have 1 year, 2 years. Like
we've already seen these weird games where it's like he's limping off the field. He's back. His helmet's off. His helmet's back on. The cold weather stuff with them.
It's true. Everyone wanted to say last year, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. No teams are cold weather teams. Like they're fast. They're well coached. It was one of the worst playoff games you've ever seen. They didn't want to be there. And Tyreek didn't look like Tyreek. And like, Look, and then people start, Tua's from Hawaii and Alabama, and like he can't play in the cold. You think like that's nonsense, but then the game was really bad. And I think no team needs to win a playoff game more this year than them. I mean, take away the front runners, obviously, but of the up and comers, like you can't go. They'd be 3 years in a row with Mike McDaniel being crowned as the next great coach, and he doesn't have a playoff win. Sean McVay came in and started winning playoff games fast. Kyle Shanahan started winning playoff games fast. Jim Harbaugh will get to playoff games and win them fast. Like Mike McDaniel, we all want to root for you. You're such a cool guy, good story. You can't keep losing in the wild card round.
All right, so I'll make a list off your list.
Yeah.
For me, Harbaugh's first.
Great. I love it.
I just think having him and McVay in the same city, even if it's a city that barely realizes as a football team, it's just crazy that the two most interesting coaches are in the same city. I hope they have a rivalry. I hope somebody says something shitty about the other guy. And then I think the Tomlin points you made were great because he is the most respected and liked coach. I include myself because it always feels like they end up going 10-7 somehow.
Yeah.
But I can't remember a single positive playoff moment they've had. I always felt like the Patriots were going to beat them when we had our actual team. And how many years in a row can you just do this? And
he's a Supreme Court justice. Like you just leave him alone. The Steelers hired coaches for 30 years, but I know there's a fatigue among Steelers fans about like we're not a 10-7 organization.
And it might just be a change of scenery thing for him, right? Where like Andy Reid had that long run in Philly. Had a lot of success, but they never got over the hump. And then he had that one bad season. They were like, okay. And that was it. All of a sudden he was in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. So I think there's the potential of that this year. I don't like the Wilson's Fields thing at all. I think that's going to be bad. All right, Kyle Brandt, we can see you on Good Morning Football. We can see you, continue to see you in the Rewatchables. Listen to us talk about Rudy this week if you haven't already. Great to see you.
Good to see you too, man.